Okay, so welcome to episode 4 of the Kayvman Show. We are going to be discussing sugar again. We're going to be discussing the benefits of sugar this time. So we're picking up where we left off last time. And if you were with us last time, you remember we spoke about how, sugar isn't necessarily something to be afraid of, especially when it's in its natural form. But part of the problem is that food scientists, modern food companies have taken sugar out of its natural form and turned it into candy and, soft drinks and sodas and ... etc. etc. So if you haven't seen that one, catch that one, because this one will make more sense. But now I don't want to talk about just, how sugar has been taken out of its natural form and how it would have been in nature, but some of the benefits of sugar, especially when it's in its natural form. There was a study done, and I can probably put the citation for that study in the notes in the comments here, but there was a study done where there was a very eccentric professor who decided to see if he could cure diabetes with just white rice and table sugar. And so he took a bunch of people who had diabetes, gave them white rice and table sugar and nothing else, and actually their insulin resistance went down, their insulin sensitivity went up, and they were essentially cured of diabetes. Now, I'm not condoning that, and there's obviously going to be a lot of asterisks and caveats with that, but it does point to the fact that sugar in and of itself is not the evil that a lot of people think it is, especially people in the keto community who are deathly afraid of sugar. Just, you hear the word sugar now and it's generally a negative word. People are afraid of it. People think it's really bad. And again, when taken out of its natural context, yes, it can be really damaging. When you're a kid, we're always told it rots your teeth, and then when you're a teenager, it gives you acne, and then when you're older, it makes you fat. So it's always doing something to you. And again, I'm not condoning that you eat just pure sugar, but I do want to take the fear out of it. Now I want to talk a little bit about the health benefits. So some of the, actual good things that come out of sugar are not really spoken about either. Sugar is, particularly fructose, is the preferred food or source of fuel for your thyroid. So it actually boosts your metabolism by boosting your the activity of your thyroid. A lot of people have low thyroid activity, and fructose actually boosts that. It also boosts a lot of the sex hormones, things like testosterone. So if you're on a super low sugar diet, you might find that your testosterone is low too, in the case of men. I don't know if that transfers towards women as well, to what extent it does, but one would assume that it's pretty similar, that a reasonable amount of sugar is actually just good for your hormonal health in general. It also boosts leptin, which is another metabolism hormone that is that you need to release every once in a while. That is essentially the idea with leptin, is that it is a gauge of your feast and famine, where you are on that spectrum. And when you boost leptin, you move more towards the feast stage, and it actually lowers your hunger and increases your energy, and again, increases your metabolism. So sugar can be a great metabolism booster. There's also the pyruvate mechanism. Again, getting into science here, and I don't want to get too far into science, plus I haven't really brushed up on this stuff, so it might be a little bit rusty, but basically, more or less, the truth is, unless you're in deep ketosis, you need some sugar to burn fat. So fat is actually burned in a pyruvate flame, is what the nutrition nerds say, meaning that long story short, you need a little bit of sugar to actually burn fat. Some of the other health benefits are athletic. So you'll see, if you're on keto or super low carb, you'll see real big diminishment in a lot of your athletic capabilities, like sports like soccer and MMA. There aren't any people doing pure keto on that. You'll be powerful, you'll be strong on keto. So if you would just to eat meat, for example, or whatever, just be super low carb, you'll see a lot of benefits. You will probably be able to burn a good amount of fat. I don't think you can get super lean on keto. It's very rare that people are super lean, but you get pretty lean and pretty in shape without any carbs, without any sugars. But your athletic capabilities will definitely suffer. And I noticed that as soon as I reintroduced some sugar in the form of fruit back into my diet, my athletic capabilities went up a lot. I was able to play and recover from soccer, boxing, MMA, things like that. My weightlifting capacity, I don't know if it changed that much. I noticed a lot less cramping, but I don't know. I think you could probably get away with pure weightlifting if you're doing relatively low reps on a keto diet, but anything sort of medium or higher rep, medium intensity, higher rep stuff, you're going to suffer a lot. And I would imagine that muscle building capabilities are severely hindered without sugar. So there's a lot of benefits to sugar. There's a reason why we love it. It's really good. It's the preferred fuel source for most of your body, particularly your brain, glucose. When there's glucose in the system, your body functions a lot better. And there are also some problems with keto. Long-term ketosis can be quite damaging, particularly on your metabolism. So eventually your metabolism will slow down and your energy levels will go down. And there's a lot of evidence that says that your organs, and I really don't think this is like a life or death type of situation. I just don't think they function as well. So particularly your kidneys, because without insulin in the system, without sugar, meaning ultimately without insulin, your kidneys don't retain electrolytes to the same degree, and electrolytes are pretty much pivotal to every functioning system in your body. So things are going to go out of whack with long-term ketosis. Again, don't think it's life-threatening. There are plenty of primitive societies we know of that completely keto, that only eat animals and animal protein and animal fats, like the Inuit, the Eskimo are the famous one of Canada and Russia, and people in really cold parts of the world generally don't have access to much in terms of plant life. So they just eat like things like seals and fish and whales and polar bears and stuff like that. So, there are plenty of societies that have thrived for millennia with just meat and just, protein and fat. So it can be done. I don't think it's like something that you need to really, really worry about if you are keto, that it's like life-threatening, but you will notice benefits to adding sugar back into your system. Kids love sugar, and for good reason. They seem to function really, really well on it. Yeah. So yeah, with sugar, this is probably just going to be a smaller one, shorter one. And all I will say is you just don't need to be afraid of sugar. And we can go again more into the science of it. I'd want to keep it less sciencey for now, but we can come back and cite sources and all that type of stuff if people are interested in that. I want to move now from the benefits of sugars to talk more about this sort of pain and pleasure, the taste, your taste receptors. So what we're starting to see now, what's starting to become really, really obvious is that your taste is not against you. What we're taught in our society is that we value high calorie foods because we starved for all of our evolution. We didn't have access to food. And it wasn't until, the wonders of the West and modern agriculture and a post-agricultural world and a post-industrial world that we had an abundance of calories. That is bullshit. That is absolute bullshit. We had an absolute abundance of calories for much of our evolution. As cavemen too, we had access to plenty of calories. I mean, there's a famous case of how the Native Americans hunt, where they would drive herds of buffalo off cliffs. Essentially. And cavemen used to do this, and Native Americans do it, I don't know about till this day, but until relatively recently in human history, until the settlers came and killed most of them, unfortunately. But yeah, that was a hunting tactic that's been used for millennia. Now, a herd of buffalo is a lot of buffalo. So a lot of buffalo would have died. They have a lot of meat, protein, fat. They have a lot of calories on each body. They would have had an absolute insane abundance of calories. And this is just one example. So this idea that in our not too distant or distant past that we had no access to calories is rubbish. Like, we have more stable access to high calorie foods after we became agriculturally, post-agricultural revolution, but it was also super low quality nutrition. So without wandering too far in this direction, I just want to say, like, this idea that we are wired to be in starvation mode all the time, and the problem with us is that we eat too many calories because we aren't used to having access to calories is just bollocks. This is like, from an anthropology standpoint, from a scientific standpoint, from a common sense standpoint, it doesn't make sense. But we tend to buy these things hook, line, and sinker. I don't know who made that up, but like, it's very, very prevalent. You see in like documentaries and on TV and all those like pop science, TV shows and stuff, and people parrot this nonsense. It's not true. That is not the reason that we are unhealthy, overweight, fat, what have you. Metabolic syndrome, which is probably growing to be the biggest killer and the biggest health problem of the Western world, is essentially broken metabolism and metabolic problems, heart disease, diabetes, even cancer to a large degree. So yeah, this idea that we cannot trust our taste buds and we have to fight ourselves ultimately because we are wired to be greedy, gluttonous, fat pieces of shit, that's not true. It just doesn't work like that. Our taste receptors are telling us to eat is actually very reliable, and is telling us to, if you understand it right, and if it's sort of calibrated correctly as it would be in nature, It's telling us to eat the foods that are good for us, that are healthy, that boost our metabolism, that boost our performance, that boost our libido, that boost our skin, hair, nails, reproductive systems, everything that make us function optimally. So you can trust your taste buds is basically what I'm trying to tell you. And the reason I used fat and sugar, and we could talk about salt as well. I mean, I'll say briefly, salt is nothing to fear either. I was told that certain communities, based on their sort of biological race or whatever, can't handle as much salt. I don't know about that, but if that's the case, then so be it. But generally speaking, more people can handle more salt, but it's been vilified, especially in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, people were super terrified of hypertension. Let me tell you, I take salt in by the boatload. I take packets of salt while I'm working out. And yes, I am muscular, and yes, I am lean, and it's not going to kill you. People aren't dying because of salt either. So we love fat, we love sugar, we love salt. And so we are told that the things that we love are bad for us. And it's part of this sort of overall social conditioning. And I don't know if we can explore this further because I'm curious. I don't know how conscious and purposeful this is, but we are trained to not trust ourselves, to believe we are stupid, right? And that manifests itself as taking power away from ourselves. We can't trust ourselves to eat what we should. We need to Google, we need to go online, we need to ask our doctor. By the way, doctors, if any honest doctor will tell you straight to your face, they don't know jack shit about nutrition. Jack shit. So whenever a doctor is telling you anything about nutrition, just smile, tip your hat, say, yes, doctor, and ignore what they're saying, okay? And honestly, like an honest doctor, I know that sounds really inflammatory, but like an honest doctor will kind of give that nod. Unless they've decided, right, to take it upon themselves to do their sort of homework and try things out on themselves and try things out on their patients. But they haven't really done any sort of work in nutrition. They obviously, doctors, Western medical doctors are incredible at loads of things. Bringing babies into the world, saving you if you get hit by a car, if you get shot, or, if you have cancer, blah, 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 blah. If you're in a life-threatening situation, you definitely want a Western medical doctor, but don't ask them about nutrition. Just do yourself a favor and do them a favor. Most doctors I know are like, I don't know about nutrition. I don't really care about nutrition. Just be sensible, exercise more, drink some water, and get on with your life. So that's not their realm. So don't worry too much about what doctors are saying about nutrition. There's this overarching idea that we cannot trust ourselves, that our taste buds, our pleasure and pain receptors are all wired all wrong because of some broken evolutionary, thing. And there may be some truth to that. Like we've spoken about how the brain can be tricked into thinking something like candy is a fruit. So, there is some update that needs to happen, but this overall idea that you can't trust yourself, you can't trust your taste buds, that everything you want, food-wise at least, is wrong, and you have to do the opposite, and you have to eat stuff you hate and avoid stuff you love, and that's the key to getting in good shape, is absolute rubbish. And that is where we will go with the next episode. We will explore that a little bit more in depth. Yeah, I think I'm personally quite excited about that. I think this is kind of the culmination of a lot of what I've been learning recently. That seems to be a common theme. Can we or can we not trust ourselves to feed ourselves and enjoy what we eat and also be in shape? Can you have your cake and eat it? No pun intended. So we'll find out on the next episode. Peace.